Hey, hello everybody. Happy Sunday. Hope you're all doing great today. And I've had a busy day. Again, if I fall asleep during the stream, you'll understand why. I've been up since 5 this morning, 5:30 or so. And I kept going. No naps. No naps today. So like I said, I may pass out during the stream, but we'll see what happens. Hope you've all had a good weekend. Hope yours has been busy and productive and good too. Um, our topic today is home. We're going to talk about home. Moving house was our topic for English at the Ready this week. Moving house is a very British way of saying we're moving to a new location to live. Americans will normally just say, I'm moving. I'm moving. If I say I'm moving next week, most Americans will know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm moving. Again, you could say that's confusing too. Why is, hang on now. I just realized something. We need to move. This is not the right monitor. It's supposed to be that monitor. As it is, but it is not the one that's showing up. Oh, no. Very weird. OBS is acting up again. It had the right monitor selected, but it was definitely showing a different monitor's screen. Okay, whatever. C'est la vie. What was I saying? Home. Moving home. If you say I'm moving, anytime we make a motion, a noun is a motion is a noun. To move is to make a motion or to make a movement, which is also a noun, right? This is a movement. You'll notice my videos. I think this is hilarious to look. I don't know anyone who really likes watching themselves speak or watching themselves give a presentation or something, but take a look at my YouTube channel here. Again, if you're not following the YouTube, let me just take a second and make sure you know how to do that. If you go to the YouTube page, it's go to my channel. There. At RiceJD. So we've got at BSO_RiceJD. Hey, we got 13 subscribers now. That is 5 more than when I started adding new videos. It's been a while since I've added videos. I started adding new videos sometime 3 weeks ago. Sounds about right. Just about 3 weeks ago. That's all right. Again, I'm not promoting this yet. Right now, I'm just trying to get everything together and get myself on a posting schedule because that's number one most important. I don't want to start posting and then find myself lagging, right? I don't want to lag behind. But if you look at my face in each of these pictures here, you can see I'm making the same motions, right? My hands are up in the air. So yeah, I definitely speak and teach with my hands, and I probably speak with my hands more because I've been teaching English online for so long. You have to think that while I was teaching children, I taught 24,750 children's lessons. I think 7 or 8,000 kids, I believe is the count. 7 or 8,000, between 7 and 8,000, right? But then again, 24,750 lessons, that means a lot of my students came back. I had pretty good retention. But anyway, let's kick this back over. Let's make sure this works. Like that's doing okay too. Yeah, home, moving house, moving, right? As an American, when I think about moving house, there's a GIF of a house with legs, a little cartoon animated house that's running in place. This is what I think of when I think of a moving house, right? A moving house makes more sense to me than moving house. I've learned that Canadians, Australians, and British people commonly say moving house as a collocation. A collocation is a common, not phrase, but common pairing of words, right? Like to make dinner. We make dinner. We don't do dinner. We cook dinner, that works, but we make dinner. This is a collocation too. To move house would be a collocation for British English. For American English, we just say moving. Most people, and I polled people this week just to make sure I not misremembering something. Um, but everyone said, yeah, yeah, moving sounds right. Moving house? I never heard that. I guess it makes sense. I've never heard it. I wanted to share something else before we get started with this lesson in proper, but this picture was sent to me this morning, and this picture made me so incredibly happy. These are two of my students from English at the Ready, our English club. Um, this girl is from Ukraine. She's from Odessa. Odessa has been a busy place for the past 2 years. Not getting into politics. You all know what's been going on, national events. And to see her with this big smile on her face, hanging out in Spain. This guy is from Peru. Yes, he's from Peru and he's living in Spain. She took a trip to Spain. He's been her conversation partner for months. In the club, we don't make people do it. We don't force people to do it, but we ask people to find a conversation partner. We have an entire group set up on we use Kajabi as our education platform. So Kajabi has a group. We also have a WhatsApp group where people look for conversation partners to supplement their learning in the club. And they get to know people from places they've never been. They make friendships with people that they would not meet otherwise. And it's the best part of what I do. I love to see students getting in touch with each other and then taking a trip to Spain to have a wonderful vacation. You can tell she has a nice tan here. She's from Ukraine. Most Ukrainians are very white, right? And we joked about this a little while. I said, your skin's almost the same color as your hair. And the hair, of course, or her hair looks more red because of the sunlight. But anyway, she has had a very interesting past 2 years. There have been times in classes, I've known her for what? She's been in the club 8 months, I believe. So for 8 months, she's been in the club. They've been conversation partners for around 6 months. And anyway, you can imagine you're taking classes from Odessa. You don't know for sure when you're going to have electricity. Don't know for sure when air raid sirens are going to go off. Don't know if there's going to be a missile or something that lands in your backyard or on the apartments or townhomes or condos next to you. She's lived a very stressful life in the past couple of years. So to see her with this smile and to know she was able to get out and meet somebody and just have a good time is fantastic. It simply makes my heart happy. It makes me very, very happy to see these two smiles here. But again, there was a class I was teaching once, and she said, Jacob, I'm sorry, I have to go. The air raid sirens are going off. And it's hard to imagine living in a situation like that. People do it all the time, but you think you're doing something so regular as taking a class online, discussing a topic. I don't remember our topic though, but you're discussing some simple English topic with your group, and an air raid siren goes, and you have to go and hide to be sure that you're safe. This again made my week. And again, it just reminds me how lucky I am to be able to do what I do. You can say in the modern world, in the digital age, we have, computers that link us to people all over the place. And we have the ability to build these bridges, right? BSO, Bridge School Online. The point is to build bridges between different countries, cultures, and people. And this is fantastic. The same girl, actually, in one of our recent classes, the class about immigration, I believe 3 weeks ago, she is in a group with two women from Iran, two Persian women. You know what that means? Persian women. That means that these people are most likely not living in Iran. And in their cases, they're not. And they might have different views than what the Western person or the Western mind might think is the average view of Iran. Again, I'm skating around politics here. I don't really want to get into that discussion. Read into what I'm saying. But she has never met people from Iran. And she said, when we talked about stereotypes, and I think I mentioned this in the immigration lesson when I talked about stereotypes, she mentioned that she's never met someone from Iran and that she thought, oh, these could be dangerous people. These are people who are very different from me. But she said that, and the two Iranian women they looked at her, smiled big, and she smiled even bigger in return. And She laughed and said, you girls are lovely. I told my Ukrainian friends the other day about the two of you. And they said, no, really? She said, no, they're just like us. Hearing they're just like us is just one of the best things to hear when you're someone who thinks about building bridges, working the diplomacy channel between groups of. You don't realize how English teaching, not online per se, but English teaching and how being an educator builds those bridges, and it's a baseline diplomacy. It's so important. There is research on it, but I feel like it's something that a lot of people would say, you don't do anything with diplomacy. You're not a diplomat. You don't work for the government. No, but I work as a private individual with a private company, and I can reach who I want to reach, and I can build the bridges I want to build them, right? I don't have the restrictions, bureaucracy that exists in government. Anyway, that's a whole different topic. Today's lesson, home. First question, house versus home. Can someone tell me what is a house? What's a house? And start thinking about what is a home. If you want to, go ahead and type your responses here in our chat, and I'll give you a moment to do so. House and home. This was interesting this week because these words are often used interchangeably, right? I'm going to go to my house. I'm going to go to my home. They may mean the same thing to a lot of people, but when you really dig into these words and you think about the meaning and the implication of them, they do have different meanings. The question, of course, what is the difference between a house and a home? A house is, per the Oxford Dictionary, a building that serves as living quarters for one or a few families. A house is a box we live in. It's a construction. It's a living quarters. It's a roof over your head. This is a place where you find shelter. You might keep some of your things there, but you may not call it a home. You may. Some houses are homes. Some people consider their house their home. Some people do not consider a house their home. A home is the place where one lives permanently, especially as a member of a family or household. This gets closer to my definition of home. Home, again, the word home, it's a place you live permanently and your family is there. That makes a lot of sense. But it's more than that. Home is an emotional concept, where house is an entirely physical concept. It's the construction, it's the building around you. A home is a place where you feel comfortable, you feel relaxed, you feel good being there. It's your space. It feels like it belongs to you. This is why we talk about our hometown. Our hometown is probably where we grew up. We spent some time growing up. These are all phrasal verbs. When I slow down like that, pay attention to what I'm saying. We grow up. This is where we are raised, right? We spend our childhood years growing and learning. And then a lot of us in the US, we go on to university, we leave our hometowns, we go somewhere else for a while. It may be close to our hometown, but most of us, we leave the area and we may or may not come back, right? So your home, we often say a good idiom, and really it's more than an idiom, it's a full-on life saying. Home, or it's a wise saying. Home is where the heart. Have you heard this before? Home is where the heart is. Home's where the heart is, the emotions, feelings. It's the place where you feel comfortable. It's a place where you feel happy. We live in the DC area now. We have a house, townhome. We have a townhome. We have a place that we call home. My family, my wife, my 3 little girls, one's 9, one's 7, one's 9 months old. This is my home with them. But if we move somewhere else, I'm still at home with them. This house and this location, I'm not sure if it's really my home yet, per my feelings, right? I lived in China for 2.5 years. I lived in Argentina for little more than a year, a little more than a year with combined times. I often talk about my international homes, Suzhou, China, Hong Kong, specifically 4 Robinson Road. I stayed at 4 Robinson Road for months at a time. I absolutely love that area of Hong Kong. It's in the Peak District, it's in Central, it's a very expensive area, but I rented a flat there for a good price in the end. 4 Robinson Road. If you look it up, there's a place called Bishop Lay House, and it's, I don't know if I'd call them hotel service apartments or if I just call them, or if I just call it a hotel, but they feel like they're apartments, right? They're just like any other Hong Kong apartment that you might rent, and it's hotel serviced. And then Buenos Aires, Argentina, Recoleta, Recoleta, Buenos Aires. This is one of my favorite places. I can go to these places and I feel just like I do when I'm in my home in the US, right? If I go to my hometown, I'm very comfortable there. I know a lot of people. Same with Suzhou, same with Hong Kong, same with Buenos Aires. I know a lot of people. I have friends and I have a life there that I could very easily fall back into. And these aren't expat friends. Most of my expat friends have moved on. If you remember from our lesson, it was a couple of lessons ago, we talked about expats, expatriates, people who leave their country and live in other countries for long periods of time. My expat friends are often digital nomads. They move from place to place. They live and work from basically wherever they feel like living and working from that month. And for them, home could be on the road. For some people, home is the place, it's the next place they're moving. They live out of their suitcase. That's another idiom. They live out of their suitcase. And that might be their home. I did it while living in China. When I was traveling across the country doing my master's thesis research, my home was basically my suitcase. And I would joke about that. This is my mobile home here. I didn't live in my suitcase, so it's a bit of a stretch as to what a house and home is. But, you know, I jokingly, metaphorically, called my suitcase my home. All of my important belongings, the things I needed, things I wanted to have with me, were all in that suitcase. So, what is home to you? If you have a thought, let me know what is home to you in the chat as we move on. An apartment, flat, or condominium. What is it? What is this thing that I'm going to live in, stay in, buy, rent? What's the difference? First, an apartment. These are all nouns. It's a suite of rooms forming one residence, typically in a building containing a number of these. So, an apartment is in a building with many other units. That's a good word for apartments, or any of these. Flats, apartments, condos, condominiums. Just call them a unit. An apartment unit. All the units look a lot alike. The layout is very similar, or in some apartments, they have 2 or 3 different layouts, and then they have some number of each one, right? They all look the same. Apartment. A flat, there we go. A flat is the exact same as an apartment, but in British English. You'll hear this in the UK. In China, they often called, when they used English, they often would call these places we live flats. I think it's because it's easier to say. British English is, or has been in the past, a little bit more prevalent in China for obvious historical reasons, especially in Hong Kong. I mean, it was a British colony, right? Until 1997. So the prevalence of British English there makes perfect sense. But a flat and apartment, there is no difference. This is the exact same thing. One is just more American English, and the other, flat, is more British English. Canadians, I've heard use both almost equally. If you're Canadian, let me know if that's true or not. We had this conversation, my business partner, English at the Ready, he said that he uses both depending on where he is. more or less. One of our other colleagues, a British girl, uses the word flat. Some of my good Australian friends, they all use the word flat. Again, British English versus American English. Now, a condominium, let's slow down for a minute. Is a condominium the same thing as a flat, as an apartment? Or is there some difference between these? Trying to watch the chat to make sure. Good. Are these the same? You may be reading the cues, right? I've slowed down here for a reason. They are different. Condominium often looks like an apartment. Sometimes they look a little bit nicer. I would say the idea that most people would have of a condominium is it's going to be nicer than an apartment. These are nice units, usually, but sometimes they look the same. A condominium, also known as, AKA, also known as a condo. Condo. We often just call these a condo. You heard me say this a few times earlier in tonight's lesson. It's a condo. A condo is a property complex where individual units are privately owned, common areas are shared among residents. Again, it sounds kind of like an apartment, doesn't it? And it is true that some apartments can be owned as well, but there's a little bit of an overlap with these words. In American English, I would say Americans use these words very much interchangeably. The idea, again, is often that a condominium is nicer than an apartment. You'll meet people who say, live in a condominium, not an apartment, because they think it sounds better. But really, a condominium is privately owned by individuals, families. They may live there themselves, or they may rent the property they own. So it's kind of like buying a house within a building, right? An apartment complex, you have a company that builds the apartments, they structure apartments, and then they rent the apartments every month. Every month they rent them. A condominium might be owned by a family. The family may move in, or the family may keep that condominium as a vacation home. This was really common where I went to university in Wilmington at UNC Wilmington, University of North Carolina at Wilmington. There were a lot of condos at Wrightsville Beach, the next door beach to our university. People would buy their summer home, their vacation home. They would live there or spend most of the summer there. And then the rest of the year, they might rent it to college students sometimes, or they might rent it when Airbnb became popular. Because again, this tells you how old I am. Airbnb wasn't around when I was in university, but it was, I'm not sure exactly when it came around. I want to say 2006, 7, 8. I graduated in 2006. So 2006, 7, 8 sounds about right. Because I know I used Airbnb shortly after university. But anyway, a lot of condominiums were rented on Airbnb and still are rented on Airbnb. Again, the apartment, a company builds the apartment building, the apartment block, you might call it, and company rents out each of those apartments. When you sign a contract for an apartment, you put down, that's another phrasal verb to know, you put down a deposit. It's some money. You put down some money. You put down a deposit for the owner to hold on to, just in case you break something or there's some major problem, or you break your contract for the lease and you leave and go somewhere else. They'll keep that deposit. It's a security for them. We often call it a security deposit, just to make sure that you abide by the terms of the lease and you do what you're supposed to do with regard to the apartment or condo that you're renting. Now, if you're buying a condo, when you buy property, you might put a down, again, you could say put down, but you might put down a down payment. A down payment. A down payment is a portion of the full cost, and often you will loan or borrow, in this case, you will borrow the rest of that money from a bank. A higher down payment, more money, is going to let you get better loan terms. It's going to make your monthly payments for the loan less, Again, your interest rate might be less if you can put a lot of money down. The monthly payments for this home could be very, very cheap, which is an excellent situation. This is why people talk about investing in real estate. Own your home. In the DC area, this is absolutely true. If you can buy your first house, paying it off, that can be a challenge. Houses here are very, very expensive. But if you can buy that house, you have a very nice piece of property that is going to hold its resale value quite a long time. And probably we call it appreciation when the, how do I want to say this? When the cost, when the price, when the listing, I'll call it a listing price, when the listing price of an apartment. So when you put an apartment on the market, you list the apartment. When you put it up for sale, you list apartment, the condo, the home. Your selling price appreciates often with real estate. As long as you buy your home in an area that's desirable, you're almost guaranteed to have some appreciation. In 10 years, the home will be worth some percentage, if not a great percentage, more than what it's worth now. So again, this is digging more into real estate than I intend to with this lesson, but it's useful to say we have deposits for rentals and down payments for home loans. I'll give you one more word here. A home loan is called a mortgage. A mortgage is a home loan, not a boat loan, not a car loan, not a student loan. A mortgage is a home loan. There I am using home, where I could also say a house loan, but it's more common as a collocation to say a home loan. I think the idea socially there is you're not just buying a house, right? Putting a down payment on a home. It's a down payment on the rest of your life. That sounds like an advertisement for a bank loan. It's a down payment. Put your down payment on the rest of your life with our bank here at ABC Bank. Anyway. All right, let's go on to settle in versus settle down. These are two interesting and related phrasal verbs. Do you have any idea what these mean? What does it mean to settle in? And what does it mean to settle down? I'll give you just a moment in the chat. You settle in. I am still settling into the DC area. It doesn't feel like home, not quite yet. I like it. DC's fine. There's a lot going on here. We went to the EU open house, open embassy day yesterday, and we walked around for a long time. We went to the Netherlands and to Belgium yesterday, and our little girls had a great time trying the food, playing some games, learning a little bit about the culture, talking to staff there at the embassies. It's a really, really neat time. This is something I really like about living in the DC area. And it's something that, of course, when we move elsewhere, we don't really have access. We could take a vacation to come here, but I'm not sure we'll do that. You know what I mean? One of those things that's unique to the area and pretty cool to enjoy while we're here. Sunday night. I've been talking all day, talking all week. I'll continue talking all week next week. My voice, a little bit of peppermint tea with honey. All that's keeping me going this evening. So, to settle in, it's a phrasal verb. It's to become familiar with and comfortable in a new environment or situation. Again, you become familiar with and comfortable when you settle in. So you settle in, and then you might settle down. To settle down is a phrasal verb again. To begin to live a quiet and steady life by getting a regular job, getting married, living comfortably, living a calm life. When you settle down, you live calmly, right? You know what to count on. Every day could become very monotonous, but there's also beauty in monotony. You settle in or you settle down. You might say you settle in to settle down. That's how I describe these two words. My situation, I married my wife almost 5 years ago. That's crazy to think. I am 41, and I went to the age of 36, being unmarried, traveling, living lots of places. Again, you could say, oh, you just wanted to be free and single. No, not really. Single and ready to mingle. No, I've always hated dating. I didn't date that much. Not until I'd say my early 30s. That I was thinking, time's catching up a little bit, and I would one day like to get married and have kids. I think I should date first so I could get to know people, right? To know what kind of person I could settle down with and then settle in with. Anyway, I met my wife 10 years before we met the second time. She was married in the meantime. She was not married when we met again. She was actually going through a separation, and we just remained friends, stayed in touch. I knew something was different. My family's known her family, at least known people in her family for a long time. I'll keep that story just in a nutshell for now. But, we knew of them. We knew of her people, you could say. So I knew she came from good stock. Again, I met her, 10 years before, and I was what? I would have been 6. That sounds about right. 40. Yeah, it had to have been that. It had to have been, I was 26, she was 21. We have a 5-year age difference, which, of course, in your 30s, that doesn't matter at all, right? You look at, who was it? Anthony Kiedis, what, 63 now? The lead singer of Red Hot Chili Peppers. He's dating a 19-year-old girl. I don't know how he does it. I couldn't do it. Nothing against any 19-year-old girls watching the stream. You're totally welcome to be here. We're not going on a date, though. One, I'm married. But 2, I just, it's hard to think about relating to somebody who is 50 years younger almost. That's wild to me. 20 years, 10 years, you do you in the end. You do you, but I just have a hard time understanding, right? But when I was 26 and she was 21, she's young for me. We don't have anything in common. 5-year difference. In your 30s, again, who cares? But anyway, we re-met at the same Starbucks. I spent a lot of time at the Starbucks. Again, that's Clemmons, North Carolina. I spent a lot of time at that Starbucks writing my thesis papers, working on everything, working on so many different things, different business plans for some of the little businesses that I tried starting up my learning days in business building, right? And being my early entrepreneurial days. Starbucks was my office because I could not focus. My parents' home there. And in between living internationally, I did come back, stay with my parents. Oh, dirty little secret. Some people hate that. They say, oh, that's an L, big loser. It was the only way I could fuel the research I was doing, work I was doing academically that I cared more about than looking like other people in my culture wanted me, right? I like my parents. I don't dislike my parents a bit. We get along great, and it was good to be around when people were my cousin, my sister, graduated from university. There are a lot of things I got to be around to be present for that I'm really happy I was there for. But anyway, I digress. We re-met at that same Starbucks, and here we are. Basically, here we are. She has 2 little girls from that previous marriage. And you can probably guess that the situation wasn't good. And that's all I'm going to say about that publicly. I'm not going to say anything more at any point ever about it publicly like this. But it just wasn't a good situation for them. And she found her way out of that situation. And I had to think, am I going to be able to settle down with this? Is this going to work? Can I settle in with 2 daughters? 2 stepdaughters right away. One was 4 and one was 2, or one was 3 and one was 1.5. I've forgotten. Yeah, one must have been 3.5 to 4, and the other was 1.5. Crazy to think about that. But very different than living in Argentina, living in China, doing the research I was doing, traveling a whole lot, and just working, what felt like 24/7, but it was more working, 60, 70 hours a week back then. Is it going to work? Obviously, I decided it would work. So I decided to settle down, to make my home with them, And then I had to settle in. I had to settle in to having two daughters. Two girls had to settle in to having me as their stepdad. You know, bless them. Bless those kids. I can only imagine. But settle down and then settle in. When you first get married, your parents say, "Oh, we're so happy you settled down." But then you have to settle in to living with that person, seeing them every day. These are the challenges of these extended relationships, getting married, living together, and then building a life together. You settle down, and you take years to settle in and become familiar and comfortable with this person that you settle with. All right. Finally, we come to the question of the week. There are two this week, two really good questions. Can you share a personal experience of a time when you had to settle into a new school, job, or neighborhood? We have a lot of people starting to watch. After the stream, the post stream on Twitch, and then the post streams on YouTube are also starting to get views. So if you're viewing on the post stream with Twitch, easy, I'm getting the hiccups now. If you view on post stream on YouTube, you view the post stream on YouTube, answer these questions in the chat or in the comment section for me. I would love to see your answers. These make for excellent conversation. I would be very happy to see a good conversation happen in our comments on YouTube. But go ahead and share an experience here if you have one. A lot of people talked, because again, we're teaching English as a second language classes. A lot of people talked about settling into a new neighborhood in a new country and the challenges that they face when doing that. One of our students, she talked about moving from her country. She moved from Lebanon to Las Vegas, Nevada, went to high school there, and she had to settle, or no, it was middle school. She had to settle into middle school in Las Vegas, along with her new neighborhood. She said this was really challenging. And you can imagine, it's challenging for my daughters to leave the school they were at a year ago just to move, we're about 15, 20 miles, roughly 20 miles from where we used to live. And that's hard enough. So imagine moving from Lebanon to the US, not being able to speak the language fully, right? Her English back then was okay. She could speak English somewhat, but again, had to learn and relearn math in English. She had to relearn sciences in English. She's a pharmacy, she is a, how do I want to say this? She's a student of pharmacy now. So she's studying to be a pharmacist. She's almost done, I believe, too. But obviously she's done well. She scored great on her math exams in her classes. And her teachers were like, "How? You barely speak English." And of course, some of the American kids made fun of her. This is typical. If you're from the US, you've seen this happen. You know this happens a lot. We think that, oh, we know everything because we know the English. We are the dominant force in this country, and these people must be stupid when they move here. No, 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 no. Far from that. These people speak another language very well. They've learned math, they've learned sciences in their language, and now they're learning to speak and to talk about these subjects in our language. They're going to know these things possibly better, right? And in her case, that's how it was. Her math scores were incredible. Her teachers were like, "What's going on?" Because something we do, one of our problems in the US, smaller towns, smaller cities, often put English as a second language students in classes with the learning disabled. And that's not the right match at all, because not knowing English is not a learning disability. Not knowing English is an immigration issue, right? It's an issue that you've changed countries, you're in a new place, and you need to learn the new language. Some schools, a lot of schools have ESL programs. Some of them are really good, and some of them are really poor. You could say it's, you do your research, you might know where to go, but it's kind of luck of the draw for a lot of students who come with their families. They move where they can, and then they go to school where they have to, right? So this was an interesting question from that perspective. Let's go with question 2. Oh, before we do that, here, let me bop one of those up here. And then if you're not following the stream, make sure you do. We're at 30 followers. If we can get up to 50 followers, then we're on track to get Twitch affiliation. Again, I'm not so concerned about that title. What I want is access to, what do we call it? To the channel points and all the extra things that I can add for you guys to ask questions and just make it more fun to view these streams as I do them. Um, this, if you would, if you're just joining for the first time, please scan this QR code. Scan this QR code right here, and it will bring you to this map. You don't have to enter any information. I'm not scraping your email address, phone numbers, or anything else. That's not going to ask for any of that. All you'll do, scan that, and you'll go directly to this map, and you can put a pin. Drop a pin on this map where you're from. I want to see this map full of pins, a year in the future. That's the goal. A year in the future, I want to see where everybody's from on this map. If you're using a cell phone, it's a little bit wonky, a little bit strange. Or to, what am I trying? A little bit strange to place your pen because your finger, we fat finger the screens. Pins aren't incredibly accurate. They might go like half an inch away from your fingertip. Just the nature of the map on cell phones. But it is what it is. Technology is great most of the time when it works. Sometimes it just doesn't. Question 2. Can you think of a time when you wanted to back out of something but didn't? What happened? When you wanted to back out of something but didn't. Was there a good outcome or a bad outcome? My story is an easy story. First year I was in China, I almost backed out. The first 3 months were terrible. I don't know if I can speak about it with enough emotion or the right kind of emotion to show you how awful it was being in China those first 3 months. The company that brought me there didn't offer the visa that they promised to give. Tried to get me to stay for a year with a student visa or maybe a business visa. Every 3 months you could apply for a business. Well, you could get a business visa for 3 months. And that means every 3 months of the year, 4 times, you have to reapply, which means you have to go to Hong Kong or Taiwan, exit mainland China, come back into China. Now, there's a reason for that. You think, wait, hold on. Most people, technically, Taiwan's considered part of China. The government is different. Hong Kong, part of China. No, wait, we're not exiting the country. It's exiting the mainland. And I can explain the complication, but it's not really for an English class, right? You exit and come back, and I thought, 4 times? That's a lot of money, travel, and it sounds like a pain. So I don't want to do that. Also, it's technically illegal. It was in 2010 very common. 2014 less common, and the new president, 2012, Xi Jinping, started making lots of changes, policies, and made it more difficult. I mean, and rightfully so, to control immigration, to control all the rogue English teachers running around China. It was an issue. Even I, much as I loved what I was doing in China, as much as I loved it, there was an issue with people coming and basically grifting the country. That's all I'm going to say about that right now. Right? But anyway, this company would not offer the residence card and working visa that was required by law and that I absolutely met the requirements to obtain. They didn't pay me those first 3 months. They only paid me and allowed me to set terms to break my contract when I flew to Beijing. I made them fly me to Beijing. They sent me, I had to go from Suzhou to Nanjing by train. I had no idea where I was going. I was the only person from my company in Beijing sent to Suzhou or sent to South China. And I got on the train. I told the conductors, hey, I need to get off the airport. And they were very, very helpful. They watched out for me. They really did take good care of me. I got to the airport. I took a flight. It was a red-eye flight. I think it was 11:30 p.m. I arrived in Beijing around 2:30 a.m. and then was taken to, this company didn't even send me to my own hotel. They sent me to sleep on a couch in an apartment of these other 2 guys that worked for them in Beijing. So yeah, okay, that just tells you a lot. It was chaotic. And then I went to company headquarters and was just very straightforward with them. Look, this is what needs to happen. This was proper. You need to pay me, number one, because I'm running out of money. It's been 3 months, and I've paid for all of my expenses, my rent, everything else up to this point. Come on, pay me. And we're talking to the tune of roughly $2,500 a month, somewhere around there, which doesn't sound like a lot of money, but that goes a long way in China. It goes a long way, and I was still able to save quite a lot from that first year. But they paid me finally. They paid me that $7,500 in cash, and I had to take it back to the bank and deposit it, which is a whole separate crazy story. But I set terms with them and said, at roughly the 6 month point, Christmas time, I'm leaving this company. What? You can't do that. No, no, no. You've already breached contract. I'll take this to the PSB or wherever I need to tell them, look, this company brought me here improperly, paid me improperly, and has broken contract with me. Anyway, they said, no, no, we don't want to do that. And I said, what I'll do, because I know it's a problem for you, if I don't do it, I will stay until the end of the semester, Christmas time. And then I will quit this company, already have a job lined up with another company that will take care of the visa properly. You don't have to do anything else. Let me go. And they weren't happy about it, but in the end, I mean, it's a no-brainer. I was very proud of myself coming up with this pathway, right? They accepted my suggestion, let me off the hook, and then I was able to join another company, Suzhou, that was fantastic. First 3 months, it was 2 months in. A girl I dated for about, well, a little more than 2 years at that point, broke up with me one morning after my computer had been broken and I wasn't able to email her or anything, and that was awful. You know, you couldn't really call either. I didn't have the right SIM card in my phone to make international calls. There was one company that allowed foreigners to make international calls using a card. It's complicated. It was complicated then. It's a little less complicated now. Things are a little bit nowadays. Back in 2010, that's how it was. I fixed my computer. I found all the parts I needed at the computer malls there in China and Suzhou, China. And that morning, I was able to make a Skype call to my then girlfriend. Talked for a while. I told her what had been going on. I said, "Is talking to you," and then pause after a bit. We talked for about 45 minutes. Pause. Broke up with me. So that was the icing on the cake for the first 3 months in China. That was pretty rough. And then all of this stuff with the company was super rough. Again, I almost backed out. I almost quit, but I didn't. And then took it to the end of my time there. I did some research at the end of my time, first year in China. Planned to go back 2014, which I did after completing the first half of a master's program while working. And then I went back to China in 2014, did my research for 8 months, and then took an extra month after that to do some other work that I was doing, and then came back to the. So I didn't back out, and I'm so happy I didn't because that affected my entire process, my life goals after that point. So I didn't back out. I learned a lot, and I gained an amazing experience. You'll hear me talk about this more. I will talk about this more, in a different context. Right now, we're at 52 minutes for the class. That's about enough time. Please, if you're watching this on YouTube after, if you're watching this on Twitch after, share comments. Tell your own stories. I want to know the answers to question 1, the answers to question 2. Again, thanks for watching. I always enjoy doing this. If you're not following, make sure you write down this spicy vocabulary. Make sure that you click that follow button here for me on Twitch. That will help us out, help us grow, help us build a conversation. The best nights are when I watch this chat and there are 3 or 4 people chatting away, asking questions. 1, my job's so easy. All I do is answer questions. Number 2, it's just fun. Again, to see the building, the bridges build between people, see us talking in this online. If you're looking for full-time lessons, regular lessons, take a look at English at the Ready. EnglishAtTheReady.com. Or you can go to English at the Ready on Instagram. You'll see my partner, business partner, Michael. Uh, this is his company. He's basically, I am Bridge School Online nowadays, Bridge Gaming. I'm working with him to build this amazing program. This amazing group of people. Right now, we have around 120 students in our club. And right now, we're not letting that number go much higher. So it's a little bit exclusive, right? We have a couple of spots open, I believe 115 people right now. Each month around this time, we have a few people leave, a few spots open, but we usually fill them because his social media following, his Instagram following, he has around 2 million people. So he's a pretty amazing guy, pretty amazing teacher. Check him out. Check out English at the Ready if you want something more concrete. We have the club option, and then we also have an option for just video lessons. We record together the equivalent of 3 video lessons. He records one, I record one. He does a master class for all of our members, and usually has a lot of really great questions people ask, questions they've had from the week, or questions they have about the material in master class. Last week's topic, today's topic, was the IELTS. A lot of our students are planning to take the IELTS exam. Diagram the IELTS, give lots of good example questions from the IELTS to help people prepare. Check it out, right? The club membership, $119 a month. The video lesson, $1 a month. Watch our pre-recorded video lessons. You have access to our video. So again, check it out. Exclamation point Discord doesn't work right now, but the Discord link on the Twitch page does work. Join the Discord. Bring the conversation to an everyday environment. I'm always looking at Discord, always checking it. You can always ask questions there. If you read rules and regulations of the Discord, and you look at the channel names, you'll see where your questions belong. It should make sense. Again, the YouTube. Go ahead and follow us on YouTube, and you can check out all of these post streams and uploads on the YouTube. I'm not uploading a lot of extra videos right now. I just don't have time. But all the videos recorded on Twitch, all of these streams, they're posted on YouTube as well. Instagram, I have a little time for Instagram. I have some posts that I want to make this week that I'm hoping I have time for. Instagram, you can follow me at RiceJD_Bridge Gaming. Again, English at the Ready. Check us out there first. Then you can go to my socials to bring the conversation to our group here on Twitch. Hope you all have a great end of your weekend and a great start. I know a lot of our viewers are starting their week already over in the Asian time zone. Good luck to you this week. Have a good one. I'll see you next week around 8:30, possibly 9 p.m. Sunday for another English Weekly Roundup. This was number 10. We made it. That's 10. Take care, y'all. Bye-bye.